Hey everyone, Raptorspank here, and today we have another episode of On the Grind, the show where I cover a deck I'm playing in Ranked. I'll break down the deck, some flex spots, and basic mulligans for the deck, and then we'll jump into Ranked with it and see how we do. And afterwards I'll do a quick review on how the deck did. So this week we're covering a control deck. I kind of made it my mission, after how negative I've been on control, to see if there was a deck that could do well in the current metagame, and so I settled on Veimer Control. It's another repeat like last week's was, but we haven't played Veimer Control on this expansion, and in fact, we haven't played it in quite a while. I played it towards the end of the last expansion, but still probably about 7 or so weeks ago, maybe a little bit more than that. But basically, for anyone unfamiliar with Veimer Control, the main concept of the deck is that it gets the most out of Vi and Heimerdinger, and both of them work really well together, or especially Heimerdinger enables Vi incredibly well because all the free turrets help get her to 10 power to level her up. And then we just have a lot of really good value cards, things that create cards in hand that we can then discard to other things, or just get great value out of them, because, I mean, we have Spring Guardian in the deck, for example, and Spring Gifts is actually pretty useful when you use it with something like Vi. And then we have some just great utility cards to round it out with things like Staarshaping to give us an alternate win condition that's pretty standard at this point. Everyone's used to the Great Beyond win condition, and that's a big part with this deck too. But essentially, it's kind of a weird control shell because Targon isn't a huge control color, although both control decks I've covered this season have been Targon decks, but typically speaking, you don't think of them as being heavy control because they don't have a lot of removal. But this deck combines that with strong Piltover removal into this really neat control shell. So, without further ado, let's talk about the list. So, to start off, we'll talk about the champion package. So, this begins with 3 copies of Heimerdinger. Obviously, this is half of the name of the deck, Veimer Control, so Heimerdinger is just really good with this deck. He works with a lot of the great spells that we have to basically generate 2 cards off of that 1 card, essentially. So if you Mystic Shot something, you're going to get the 2/1 Tough Turret. And just generally, we get a lot of value off that. We cast a lot of spells. One of the biggest turrets we're going to see consistently, well, maybe not consistently, but you'll probably see it every game, is doing a Staarshaping with him out, and you'll get the Quick Attack turret, which is very aggressive and attacks pretty safely. And even if we're not necessarily getting off to the races with him, or we have double Heimerdingers, his champion spell's really strong too. Drawing 3 cards and reducing their cost, while also if we have a Heimerdinger out, and we will if we're casting Progress Day, that means we're going to get the T-Hex off of it too, which is incredibly powerful, even without keywords. So that's really strong. So every aspect of Heimerdinger is great for what we are looking to do with the deck. So we can either use it to make our removal generate us units to really go wide with the board, or we can use it to fast level Vi, or we can use it just to draw more cards off of his champion spell. And then obviously the next champion is 3 copies of Vi. This is just a really strong removal / a win condition on her own. Basically, the challenger aspect of her and the fact that she's tough means she could probably kill 2 units before she dies herself. We have a lot of ways to heal her up as well, as I mentioned, Staarshaping, but there's a lot more, as you'll see when we get to the follower in the spell package. So there's a lot of ways to keep her from dying, and she can just serve as a win condition then, that we get her to 20, or we get her to leveled very quickly, and then she just starts punching a ton of damage through every time she kills a unit. So then we just slowly burn our opponent down with chunks of 5 damage here, chunks of 5 damage there, all while dealing with their board. So that's one of our primary win conditions. Her champion spell can be useful for that. It can also be really great for buffing things that don't get blocked. So if you go wide with like the Heimerdinger turret plan, this can be used to make sure that we force lethal damage through something else that's unblocked. Also, because it creates fleeting copies in hand, we can use this to generate a ton of fearsome turrets with Heimerdinger out, so that's kind of good. But it's ultimately not a big part of the card. We're really using her mostly as removal, and we have a number of different ways to enable her. So that's the big idea with Vi in the deck. So let's talk about the followers. So first off, we have 3 copies of Mountain Goat. This is just an incredibly cost-effective unit. And more than that, Gem is very important in our deck too. But ultimately, this can block fearsome units. It comes down on turn 2, so it can also clock our opponent pretty quickly, which can be very useful since we do have a lot of burn spells, as well as the fact of we don't have a ton of Celestials, so getting a lethal Great Beyond can be kind of difficult. So the more damage we can do early, the better, although we are still a control deck, so we can always play slow. But the gems can be very, very good. We have a lot of discard outlets that can discard gem, but also, as I mentioned, Vi is a big thing. So Gem A buffs Vi heavily because it's going to essentially give her +2 instead of +1 because of the cast trigger as well. But it's also going to heal her, which helps make it so she doesn't die when she attacks, which is sometimes very relevant. So that's really strong. We can also use it to buff other units if we're going go wide with turrets, for example. So there's a lot of value here. It's also good for letting the tough turret block fearsome, for example. Hero Race isn't big right now, but I have still seen it occasionally, so that can be useful. It's just a great value card, nice and cheap, generates us extra cards, everything we want, and also gems can even create turrets with Heimerdinger if we need a quick blocker. Then we have 2 copies of Solari Priestess. I think last time I ran this list we had 3 copies. I'm not terribly sold on her. She's a very weak body, and while you can get away with that a little bit more now, I think there's just other more valuable things we can get out of it. So this is still here, though, because it's a great value card. Comet can deal with a lot of different problems or different threats, so that's really, really strong. Also, Sisters is really good for gaining life or just killing our opponent with the elusive. The Warrior can always serve as removal in a pinch. Same with Meteor Shower. And Meteor Shower and Comet both work great with Heimerdinger because you can get the Flyer or the Overwhelmer depending on which when you cast it, which one you get. Or it's not the Overwhelmer. Then you're getting the Quick Attack. Written in Stars can get you the Overwhelmer while also giving you like a really big buffed Vi or buffed Heimerdinger. So those are all great options as well. So there's just a lot of good value you can get out of this card. But generally speaking, it's a bit slow and a weak enough body on its own that I went down from 3 to 2, but it's still a really good card in the deck that gives you a lot of versatility. Then we have 3 copies of Spring Guardian. I mentioned this in the intro, and yeah, this card is really, really good. A 3/3 for 3 is really solid for what our deck's trying to do. As I mentioned, we kind of do want to clock our opponent best we can. So we are a little more aggressive than other control decks can be because we're trying to get it to the point that our late game is lethal and lethal quickly. Spring Guardian is really, really good for that. And then again, generates a card in hand. This can be discarded to a number of things. We'll talk about those more, but including the other unit you see here. But it can also be used with Vi very effectively. Fully healing Vi can be really devastating for our opponent. I've done it a handful of times. It's a really, really strong card in the right situation. And again, can also generate turrets in a pinch if you need to. The next card, and the last card in our follower package, is 3 copies of Sump Dredger. This is a really well-costed card because it's a 4/3 for 3. And the only downside is you have to discard a card, but you get to draw one off that. So the good thing here is we can play something like Mountain Goat or Spring Guardian, generate a card off it, then pitch that card to draw a real card from our deck off of Sump Dredger. So it helps us draw towards our win conditions or other value cards while having a massive body on its own that can really clock our opponent quickly. So it just does everything we're looking for. It's a great payoff for all these extra cards generated in hand, and it's just a good way to draw through our deck. So that's just everything we want in a unit. Now let's talk about the spell package, because this is pretty hefty. So first off, 3 copies of Thermogenic Beam. It's the good catch-all. It's a kill spell for something on turn 1. It'll deal with the Cythria the Bolt. It'll deal with something even bigger, depending. So this is just a great flexible catch-all, and it means that we can generate any turret off Heimerdinger using Thermogenic Beam, since we can also hit 6, 7, 8, etc. off of Thermo for the Heimerdinger. So that's something that's actually sometimes valuable, although since this is slow spells or a slow speed spell, there's a lot of downside to trying to go for that play. Often they can answer it. So that's something to keep aware of, but it's just a really great flexible removal spell that can answer big threats and small ones. So it's an easy 3-of in the deck. Then we have 3 copies of Guiding Touch. This is just another heal spell that's nice, and it also draws you a card, so it can help us dig towards more relevant cards while keeping us alive against some of the more aggressive matchups. And keep in mind, this can be used to keep a Heimerdinger alive if he's taking damage. It could be used to keep Vi alive. Both are really relevant, really strong. You can even use it to keep some other unit alive. I've done that more than once, healing a Spring Guardian or something like that, just to force extra damage through. So it's a very versatile spell in this deck, and it replaces itself in hand, so that's really good. Then I know I've talked about this card a lot. 3 copies of Hush. I love the card. It's just really, really good. It answers a lot of the most broken, degenerate stuff in the game right now. It can help you deal with elusives if your opponent's going that route. So it's just really, really good. It keeps Lee Sin in check. It keeps Fiora in check. And so it's just an auto-include, and 3 copies is just too good to pass up. So I think I might have been only running 2 last time I played this deck, but I definitely think 3 is the right number to go with, especially with the meta we have right now with so much Zoe, Lee Sin, and other such decks. So that's an obvious versatile include. Most people are familiar with this card by now. And then we have 3 copies of Mystic Shot. Another great catch-all. It's a turn 2 answer for pretty much most things that you'll see on that turn. There's a couple of things that would live through Mystic Shot, but generally speaking, it's a very versatile removal spell, and we can always point at the Nexus. This has happened more than once when playing this deck, is that I've killed someone with a Mystic Shot or Get Excited. So don't forget it can be used as burn. It also obviously generates things off Heimerdinger, and it can be used with Vi very well to get extra damage through, level her up at fast speed, etc. So there's a lot of good reasons for running Mystic Shot. And then we have 3 copies of Pale Cascade. Another really great card. We can trigger Nightfall very easily, which means we can get this to replace itself in our hand very easily, and the damage buff is pretty big. As I mentioned, we're trying to clock our opponent fairly quickly, so doing extra damage with this can be really good. You can use it with a Great Beyond in the late game to buff that extra bit of damage to kill them. You can use it with a Vi to generate 3 power right there because of the cast trigger and then the +2. So it's really good at like turbo leveling her, so that's really good. You can also use it to save something like a Mountain Goat or a Spring Guardian so that you can attack with it and then also block with it later, so your opponent can't actually kill it or trade with it. So that's all really, really strong things, and that's why even though we're a control deck, we're running 3 copies of Pale Cascade. It's just really that good. Then we have 3 copies of Get Excited. More removal, fairly cost-effective at 3, and since we have so many things that generate extra cards, we can usually get away with this without losing too much. I mean, you can discard a turret to it even if you have to. So really strong card. Also, fair amount of burn damage. Do not forget how much damage this can do to targets. So definitely good for killing your opponent if you can get him down to a low enough point. I have won more than one game off of just burning my opponent with burn spells. So in a similar vein, we have 2 copies of Aftershock. Same thing. This is the big change from the last list to now, is that we have Aftershock. Aftershock is so incredibly good. You can deal 3 damage to anything. That means you can kill units with it. You can kill your opponent with it. You can also destroy a landmark with it, which is one of the biggest things we can do. You almost always want to leave 4 mana up on turn 3 against any Plaza deck. It's just such a huge downside for them if they spend that much mana playing a landmark and you kill it right then and there. Obviously, it's good against Peak as well, but generally speaking, it's never going to be a bad card. If you run against some aggro deck, this can kill a very important card of theirs. You can just use it as removal like that. If you manage to get your opponent low enough, you could kill them with it. So it's just super versatile, great card, great include to the deck. Definitely beats out some of the cards that used to hold this spot like Static Shock. And then finally, 3 copies of Staarshaping. As I mentioned, great with Heimerdinger to generate a pretty sizable turret. It's great with Vi to keep her alive. It's great for keeping us alive, and it generates us a win condition pretty much most times, whether it's Destroyer or it's the Scourge. And then obviously the Great Beyond or the Immortal Fire are our biggest payoffs that can help us win the game very easily, very effectively. So keep that in mind. Now let's talk a little bit about flex spots. So first off, you can always throw in 1 to 2 Static Shocks. That's what the deck used to have. I think it had 3 Priestess and then 1 Static Shock instead of the 2 Aftershocks. Obviously, I think Aftershock's a little bit better for its versatility, but if we see the meta switch to more aggro decks with really low health units, Static Shock's really great for clearing the way. Similar vein, Tri-Beam Probulator, also really good. Thought about running it, but Aftershock is just too good to make the swap. But this is definitely the next highest on my list because it can very easily kill huge things and give us huge units. The important thing is we have a ton of 3-cost cards, so we can very easily get this to a point that it kills something huge and generates us a huge unit, so it just synergizes really well with the deck. Then we have 1 to 2 copies of Sunburst. This is just another great catch-all removal if we're worried about big units. So the fact that we can cast this with Daybreak to silence is also really great. It's great for killing things like Anivia or Trundle or Tryndamere, things that we could see them boosting where the silence could matter and we could prevent them from getting their last breath trigger. So That's really, really strong. That said, it's generally too expensive and unwieldy to really get away with it often, so I'm not running it, but it's definitely something you can include. As for some units you could change, you probably start cutting spells if you want to go Solari Soldier, because you want to keep that main package, probably, though the other two you can replace things in that package with. But if you're going to add Soldier in, you're probably replacing some sort of spells. Maybe Get Excited, maybe Mystic Shot, something like that, just to lower your curve so that you can be a little faster. That's not going to be great into most matchups, because where that's going to be best is probably Control, and that's not really something we're expecting to see often, but it is something that you can consider. It's also good into aggro as having another early turn 1 play. So that's something you could consider. Not something I personally think is really worth it, but something you could think about. Then there's 3 copies of Puffcap Peddler you can go instead of another 3 cost. So in that case, if you want to add Puffcap Peddler, I'd probably replace Sump Dredger. Even though we lose the card draw there, this would basically allow all of our spells to be turned into an alternate win condition of mushrooms that kill our opponent. So that's something worth considering. I've never done it myself, but it definitely is something you can pay off pretty heavily, because we have a ton of spells that can plant mushrooms. So that's something to be considered. And again, you still have that powerful 3 power for 3 cost. It's definitely a solid body on its own. Be more aggressive with it than you would normally in a Puffcap deck. And then finally, you could replace probably again Sump Dredger with this, but you could replace it with 3 copies of Solari Sunforger. Really great, cost-effective unit. Lifelink if you can get Daybreak on it, which will gain you a ton of health. So that's really, really potent. Definitely a valuable card. While you go up the curve a little bit, you get way more power out of this, and the life gain can be huge for the deck. So definitely worth considering. So that's the flex spots for the deck. Alright, now let's talk about mulligans real quick. So the big thing here is that you want to keep some sort of plan for how you win. Usually, you can get away with a super aggressive hand potentially, but you want to keep 1 Heimerdinger, 1 Vi, 1 Staarshaping, something like that, usually into most matchups. And you almost never want to keep more than 1. Maybe against other control decks, but even then, you're still going to be better off trying to be the aggro deck in the matchup. So you usually only want to keep 1, and you don't want to keep more than that. Other than that, you want some sort of unit. You want a unit in your hand. You don't want to be all spells. Even though we are a control deck, you want something that's going to get started early and get a ton of damage through. I wouldn't even... I could keep a Priestess in my opening hand, but it's not going to be my only unit, or I'm going to be mulliganing to try and find other units. So that's one big thing. You really want to have one of those 3-powered units in your starting hand. Almost always. And you can even go with multiples of that. Then you're going to play more like the aggro deck, at least in the beginning, and then just look to win with one of your late game cards. But otherwise, since you are a control deck, your opening hand's going to really vary matchup to matchup. Some things are going to be good in other matchups and weak in another matchup. So, big thing, if you're going to go into aggro, what you want is some sort of unit, and then you want some sort of life gain. You don't really want Vi or Heimerdinger, although both can be really good for different reasons. Vi can kill some important unit, and a lot of aggro decks will have a hard time killing her. Heimerdinger can generate you a huge board to block with. So both have their own values, but really you want some aggressive units and then some very cheap removal spells. Mystic Shot's going to be great. Thermogenic is actually pretty good into most aggro decks because you can use it on turn 1 to kill something, and that will deal with a lot of threats. Not always. Bilgewater Burn's going to have a lot of things that will survive the Thermo, but generally speaking, really strong into aggro decks. So that's what you really want. Low curve, and then maybe one sort of late game win condition, but you can even forget about that in the aggro matchup and just go very early curve units and spells. Again, you want something that can block, though. And then Guiding Touch, Staarshaping, that can be a really good thing to keep. Staarshaping's probably your best win condition to keep in the aggro matchup, just because it's going to gain you a ton of life. Against mid-range, Hush is going to go up in value a bit. Ironically, it's really there for combo, but in mid-range matchups, it can be really good for stripping something important, like Challenger or like a Cythria effect. Aftershock will be great if it's a Plaza deck. You love to see Aftershock against a Plaza deck. Big thing you want, lots of units early on. Staarshaping's great too for a late game win condition, because that's probably going to be your most reliable way to beat mid-range. But Vi and a lot of 3-power units really good for forcing these good trades and ripping through their boards. So that's stuff you really want. Thermogenic also can be good. Mystic Shot's going to go down in value. Guiding Touch is going to go down in value. So that's what you're looking for the mid-range matchup. Against Control, try to be fast. Go very, very aggressive. Play your things very proactively and try to open attack as often as possible if you think it's going to be better to not leave the opportunity for your opponent to board wipe. Just try to do as much as you can with that as early as possible and get them low enough that you can hopefully win with a Staarshaping, Great Beyond, or some other spell shield threat that your opponent hopefully has run out of multiple removal spells to kill that turn, and you can force through that lethal damage. Burn can be good too, but I wouldn't necessarily keep it in hand. Look for the aggressive units, look for a Staarshaping. So those are the basic mulligans. So that's the deck for this episode. You can find the deck code as well as the deck link in the description below. And yeah, well, let's jump into the matches. Alright, Zoe Leona. So I'm guessing this is a Targon mid-range, but instead of running Aurelion Soul as a late-game payoff, they're just sticking with good value out of Leona. So probably more Daybreak units. Decisions. I'm not sure Vi's actually good here. They probably have a lot of answers for Vi. What with, oh, maybe it's still worth it. Staarshaping's good here, and I think Heimerdinger's good. I think that's as much late game as we can hold. So we'll just mulligan that. Alright, this is decent. Oh, Hush can be good here. Zoe turn 1. Yeah, it's highly unfortunate. Unless we draw a Mystic Shot off the top. Nope. Although that is aggressive. Okay. I mean, I will trade. Unfortunate that we didn't find an answer to Zoe, because we should have a number of them. Well, with Get Exciteds and Mystic Shots, but no such luck yet. That, on the other hand, is some luck. What do we care about more? Let's go aggressive here. If we can catch our opponent sleeping, we can kill this Zoe. Okay. Oh, he took the full hit? Do we go for it anyways? I think we do. It's worth trying at least. Alright, perfect. Now the question is, what did he pull off that Spacey Sketcher? And did he pitch? Oh, he pitched super cool. Interesting. That's a bold play. Alright, well, I mean, we can be aggressive so far. The problem is, I'm a little scared of what all of this, ooh, actually, a second Heimerdinger is not bad. I'm a little scared of what all this invoking will have gotten our opponent. Good news is I could probably play this Heimerdinger. Okay, I can definitely play this Heimerdinger. Lots of invoking, and that's gonna be problematic eventually. There's a good chance that I'm gonna use this Staarshaping just to get the quick attack turret off of Heimerdinger. We will see though. Highly dependent on what he does. Decisions. Alright, we'll pass. We are the control deck. We can wait. Radiant strikes. I guess we're not really worried about him gaining life here. So what can we do here? Is anything worth really doing? It's not really worth hushing because he's gonna gain up to 20. So like the 2 damage is not that huge a deal. That said, I'll go for the Staarshaping. Yeah, I mean that is the best possible thing to get. Now, is it worth healing for more turrets? No, I think it's worth banking the mana. Great Beyond doesn't come down yet from our opponent, so that's the good news. And we have this second Heimerdinger to back up. See what my opponent plays. We might fire this Thermogenic depending on what he does. If he plays something like a Mountain Goat, we will kill that. Now will we kill a Zoe? I think we will. I think Zoe's worth killing. And he shouldn't be able to do anything about that, so. Well, this is 8 damage we can force through here. And we've stayed at full health. So we're not terribly close to dying to Great Beyond either. Yeah, I figured he'd take that damage. Ooh, Immortal Fire. Okay. That's a little concerning, but not that bad. This Hush could be pretty good against that. Okay, let's try to kill the Mountain Scryer. And we'll see what we can do with this Mystic Shot. So if I hush that, that won't actually kill him. Alright. Yeah, that's fine. I think we'll heal ourselves here. Play the turret. What would I rather do? Neither is particularly great, but I guess we'll do this. Probably Guiding Touch too to get another turret, right? Vi's not awful.
It's smaller than a diagram.
Okay, he has a lot of mana. I think we're probably better off just full swinging, right? I think that's our best play. And then we might play Vi.
Exercise caution.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of damage. The Spell Shield could be a problem. So he's only... Okay, so he invoked something random off that. Okay, now he has another Staarshaping. Alright, that's what we were concerned about. The double Hush might be a lifesaver for us. Depending. Okay, that's what he pulled off that, huh? Okay. That's actually one of the least scary things he could have pulled, to be quite frank.
One girl wrecking crew.
I think we fire off this Guiding Touch now, right? Mystic Shot's not awful. I mean, that could help us kill our opponent. This is sketchy, but not the worst position I've ever been in, especially since they don't have Aurelion Soul. And this seems like, I mean, maybe they're just drawing poorly, but seems like a bad shell for Leona, because Leona's only had one activation. Alright, this is a bit scary now. Okay. I think now we hush. We can't let him have that many cost reducers. Okay. See what he goes for. Maybe I should be playing this evolution turret. I suppose there's no harm in playing it. I'm being a little greedy, and that's a mistake. I should have played the turret just to get a little bit closer to leveling Heimerdinger and boosting Vi's damage. Okay. Comet. Okay. That's what he pulled off that Scryer? Well, that's not bad at all. Okay. That might do it. Let's see what he goes for, but I think that might do it. So... if I double Hush... yeah, if I double Hush, it's not gonna It's not going to actually matter.
There's only one true light.
Alright. Here we go. Mystic Shot, actually one of the best draws we could have had there.
Head it in. Eat this.
Pull the Immortal Fire over there, and we're set up for a lethal attack. Alright, there we go. Whew. That would have been a point in which Judgment would have been scary, but it still would have been fine. He could have Judgment and then put single combat on top of the stack, targeting Great Beyond. That would have been the biggest wipeout for us. But yeah, no, there we go. We got there. Not bad. On to the next. All right, Plaza Scouts. This is a little bit scary. We don't have board wipes, but we do have a lot of units that line up well against them. What's most likely to be the best against them? Probably Vi. Can I keep a Staarshaping? Staarshaping's really good too. I mean, there's an argument for Heimerdinger, but I think we're gonna keep these two late game cards. Oh lord. Okay, that's way worse than the hand that I had. Alright, that slightly improves things, but still not great. Especially when he has turn 1 Fleet Feather. We don't have Aftershock, though, and we don't have any of our 3/3s, which that's really what we need. Mountain Goat would be good, too. We would take a Mountain Goat. Oh, man. Yeah, I can gain 1 billion health, but it's not going to matter. We're going to be dead before then. Alright, what's he got? Another Vi. See what he plays. Worst case scenario. Are we willing to kill that now? Yeah, I think our punish is pretty low here. For him to get another attack in, he has to Relentless Pursuit at this point, and if he's using a Relentless Pursuit now, we're in good shape. So what I'm assuming, based on how he played that... Okay, perfect. I was assuming he had a Misfortune. Either that or he was really worried about Aftershock. Which is understandable, but unfortunately we don't have Aftershock. Are we willing to make a trade? Probably not. We are the control deck. We can play slow. No, we can play Vi now. So that's pretty good. Vi should be strong in this matchup.
The ocean charts our course. I'm doing this my way.
I think that's probably fine that he got a Pix. If he swings with Pix, too, he's kind of in trouble, because we can just eat that with Mountain Goat to get a free gem. And we will definitely block this Island Navigator if he Pixes and buffs the Island Navigator. He doesn't have a Plaza and he doesn't have a Misfortune so far. And that is incredibly lucky for us.
Let's get to it.
I won't even pretend that that hasn't been incredibly lucky for us.
The dead don't need riches.
I can take the 2.
1-2 punch.
This Jagged Butcher isn't important. Ooh, that's unfortunate. Woo! Well, he just wasted a ton of mana. And that is what we like to see. Alright, so what do we do here? Oh, another Hush? That's incredible. Alright. Chance to even up the damage. What's worth more here? I guess we could potentially do both, so we'll do this. Alright. Dealt with a couple of threats now.
Slow down, will you?
Alright, we'll play Heimerdinger.
I love them.
See what he does. Ooh, I like Priestess. But that is a bit risky. We kind of want to keep this Vi alive at this point.
Hot damn is the boss. You best start running.
So if I play that, I can't do the other stuff. So we will heal her, create a turret, play a turret.
Just 1.21 gigahexes.
Let's see what he does. The only thing this can kill... Oh, okay. That's what he's going to go for? Interesting. Okay. That's a decent play. Like, that's a pretty reasonable play. It's not going to work, but that is a reasonable play.
Here we go.
I think I can take the 3. Right? Yeah. Alright. We'll heal Vi. None of these are good. None of them at all. So this does deal with these two, but I need a Celestial to do that. I think Scourge is probably a better bet.
Let's get to the fun part.
Does he have another buff? Or a combat spell? So if he has a combat spell, we're actually going to level up this Vi, which means the next one's going to be leveled up. Alright. That's a leveled up Vi.
Yeah!
We like to see that. And we'll play the wrench bot. We're kind of outvaluing them right now, which is pretty, pretty incredible. Our opponent has also decided that. Not a bad start. That was surprisingly well from a hand that was pretty bad. But we did have the Hush. I really undervalued there. I was not expecting Hush to carry as much value as it did. That was a really, really good game for Hush. So, incredible. Very risky using it the way it did. I used Hush very aggressively, but by keeping Vi alive using it, we ended up really grinding out the game there. So not bad at all. On to the next. All right, Nightfall aggro. Been a while. All right, this could be interesting. At least our removal can line up fairly well. Speaking of which, Decisions. These are some good cards. The question is, do we want Hush? Hush can be good, but I think we can replace that with something else. Yeah, I think that's probably for the best.
They forced us to choose.
Now, do we fight aggressively here? I think so. We kind of want to clear the way for this mountain goat, if at all possible.
We will be free.
If we force him to use defensive things aggressively, we're kind of okay with that. Or aggressive things defensively, I should say. I don't need to attack here, though. Again, we are the control deck. I don't need to push my advantage. I want the gem to pitch this Sump Dredger, but I can always kill this soldier with Mystic Shot. Which, I think I might just try this right now. If he has a Pale Cascade, I want him to show it. Okay. What else you got? Stygian Onlooker? Alright. Not bad. Again, we're the control deck. I could play slow here. I'm playing a little too fast right now, to be honest. Oh, if he plays like Doom Beast, I can always shoot the Doom Beast with Mystic Shot. Okay. I mean, I'm fine with him playing slow. We should have the late game. The biggest thing we're scared of is like a Nocturne. That's why I considered keeping the Hush, for the record, is for Nocturne or something off of a Cygnus. This can be a little sketchy too, the Lunari Shadestalker. Got something else? Now this Aftershock can kill the Shadestalker, so we have that at least going for us. Yeah, I figured he'd take that hit. I think we could bank mana here.
Darkness hides in my path.
Yeah, I think I'd rather bank mana than playing the Sump Dredger right away. These are going to be problematic eventually, especially since we haven't found our life gain package yet. Okay. Stygian Onlooker. Well, I guess we could play Sump Dredger and pitch this gem. We can do that pretty safely. Ooh, another goat's fine. Again, these are going to be a problem eventually. If he plays Nocturne, we're just going to shoot the Nocturne down with Aftershock. That's what we're keeping this for right now. Because that will work until he levels this Nocturne up. Which he's got 3 that can attack right now, but that's still not quite enough to level up Nocturne. And if he does play Nocturne and shrinks our units, we can still block with Sump Dredger on the Stygian Onlooker, which is something that we're probably going to consider doing. But if he swings like this, we'll trade Goat into that. Sump Dredger's worth more at the moment. And another gem's nothing bad. Still isn't ideal though. Oh yeah, we haven't seen his ephemeral yet. Whatever he got off the last Stalking Shadows.
Night flowers.
Okay. Still haven't seen it. But that is, he probably does have an ephemeral Lunari Duskbringer in hand. I think we'll play Heimerdinger here.
Seems to be the problem.
We're kind of going for value here. This Hush does buy us some time against the elusives now. Again, though, the biggest thing we're worried about is a Nocturne. Nocturne's going to be a problem for us. Alright. I'll still swing with this. That means that we're not going to swing with Go anymore. Get Excited's pretty good, actually. We're really looking for a Staarshaping. That's the best card we can find. Staarshaping gives us a payoff, like a win condition, and it also gives us a lot of health. Okay, so he's going to get, what, Pale Cascade? A choice between Pale Cascade, Mystic Shot, Thermogenic? Yeah. And we haven't cast any gems. I thought about casting one this game, but I decided Heimerdinger was a better way to trigger Nightfall for the Pale Cascades. I suppose this is a difficult decision for him. Thermogenic actually gives him a way to deal with Heimerdinger. Mystic Shot gives him Burn. And then Pale Cascade's just a great card for his deck. Mystic Shot. That is... okay. That's weird. That's a legitimate weird choice. I don't know why he would go that route. Now, ideally, we're gonna pitch this gem to get excited. Double Hush is good. What we'd love for him to do is play a Nocturne here, with prior to attack. That way, we can kill it with Aftershock. Yep. All right. Yep. There's the ephemeral one. So there's still one ephemeral we don't know about. Could be a Shadestalker. Considering how many Shadestalkers he has, it is pretty likely. Not guaranteed. Oh! And that's what we were looking for. This is probably Shadestalker and one unknown. And then we get the Stormlobber. Now the downside here is we don't have the easy way to kill both Shadestalkers that we were hoping for this turn. We can still kill one, and that's what we're going to hold.
Her flowers bring them
interesting.
with them.
Okay. What's he getting? Another Nocturne? Wow! What? That's incredible. Okay, well, kill him before he attacks, and that leaves him with one Nocturne left in deck, and that's almost certainly a Shadestalker in hand. Alright, and now we get the Fearsome Turret. Yep, Alright, that's an early scoop, but since he's down to like one ephemeral Shadestalker in hand, which we know that that's true because Stalking Shadows can only grab followers. I mean, I suppose it could be a Solari Soldier in hand, but since it can only grab followers, it has to be like Shadestalker, Duskbringer, Solari Soldier. Actually, can't be Duskbringer, right? Because we saw one turn 1 before he'd cast it, and then another one, and then an ephemeral. So I don't think it's the other card to have been a Duskbringer. So I mean, maybe it still is, but yeah. He had a bad ephemeral card in hand. We had answers for his board, which he didn't know yet, but we killed 2 of his Nocturnes, and Nocturne was always going to be the scariest thing in that matchup. So yeah, we were in great shape there, but a little bit early scoop. He might have been able to come back from that, but yeah, we'll take it. On to the next. Okay, Zoe Soul, a little more traditional Plaza deck. This should be sketchy, kind of like the last one was. Okay, well this is a bit better. I think we'll keep the Get Excited. Ooh, did not really want a second Priestess though. Okay. I mean, this is fairly aggressive.
Bless the faithful and sear the heretics.
What? We play against Zoe Leona and we only see one Solari Priestess the whole game, and then we play against Zoe Soul and we get we get a Daybreaker turn 1? Who does that? Alright, let's see what he plays. Ooh, Aftershock is good. Aftershock is good. We definitely Aftershock that.
Follow the horizon.
Am I willing to block that? That's a big question to ask myself. I think so. We kind of want to be aggressive in this matchup, but we still can't be that aggressive. It's actually tempting to keep Gem with a Vi in hand, but nope. Our hand's getting more aggressive. Okay, well now we can't attack. Oh man, that's unfortunate. That you hate to see. Okay. Is it better to match that or play a powerful unit? I think play a powerful unit. Spring Gifts is actually good with Vi too, so that's something we are definitely looking at right now. Oh man, it's tempting to play a Heimerdinger.
Vi stands for Vi.
Okay.
Clad in shining sunlight.
No, we'll just
Trouble coming at ya.
hit this, I guess. Okay. What did he invoke that off of? Priestess, okay. And so now he has an unknown that could be really good. We don't know. And now we can play Priestess, probably. That is terrifying. So we can't do anything to save Vi. That's what that means. The best we could do is just make it so our opponent has to choose. I don't think that's really worth it, though. Okay. Well, I can use this to kill, that can kill the Eclipse Dragon, I think, right? Because it takes 5, down to 3, up to 4. So I can do 2 mana? Just to boost the damage output a little bit? Is that worth it? No, because I can always just Mystic Shot that.
Enforcer down.
Okay. 4 to that, 1 to that. Maybe it would have been better to play Heimerdinger first. Man, not great. Oh, that's a decision. I want to take Sisters here, but Fallen Comet is pretty important.
Daylight warms the heart and lights the way.
Yeah, it's probably the better play, in fact. Oh, I think we lose now. I think we're guaranteed to lose off of Aurelian Soul. Yeah, I can't actually kill him right away. I want to play Heimerdinger and then Fallen Comet, but I'm pretty sure Heimerdinger just dies to a combat spell. Okay. Invokes.
Now they'll pay attention.
The strength of the sun and my faith are one.
Yeah, I mean, let's get rid of it.
Trickster never loses because Zoe makes the rules.
Kind of want to try to kill that.
Doggo, doggo, doggo.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, this is not going great, but it could be worse.
Devotion through battle.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and attack. Right.
Oh dear.
Block here. Mystic shot here. What do we care more about? We're actually Mystic shot down to. So if I get excited, discarding that. We want to kill something here. The question is what? Guess we kill Traveler. You know, with Hush, maybe it would have been better to do something else. But we dealt with a Zoe. We killed one of his things. We still have these two. Things definitely not going in our favor right now, but I've seen worse.
What seems to be the problem?
The question is, did he get a Great Beyond? I assume that this Heimerdinger is dead. Oh, he's like full invoke.
Stars have so much to tell us.
Very weird that that deck would be playing Solari Soldier. All things considered. Alright, let's just start getting some blockers out. I mean, Heimerdinger is almost certainly dead. Oh god. Alright. Mystic Shot kill that. Think that was probably the highest value target to kill. And now we just want chump blockers.
Sturdy construction.
Not looking good. Game's still winnable, but definitely not looking good. That helps. That's at least a blueprint of a plan. Obliterate enemies with 3 or more power. Welp. That's unfortunate. Great Beyond is pretty great. Living Legends also very tempting from the position that I'm currently in. Yeah, because Great Beyond really doesn't do it. Right? Not that Living Legends is guaranteed it either. This would be great with a Heimerdinger out. That's the thing. This would be great with Heimerdinger. Alright, we'll take it. And then we will heal something else to draw another card to see what we can find. That's probably worth it.
New stars will have new stories soon.
Play that, because that will trade.
Cosmos.
I will still block that. If you don't think that I will, you are quite mistaken. I mean, this Great Beyond is extraordinarily far away from winning the game, but, well, I guess it is 2 attacks, technically. I don't think he has one of his own. I don't think he has any way to play one of his own. worst that could happen is he plays something like Immortal Sun, like he's Staarshaping's Immortal Suns. Okay. Okay. That's scary.
This one blocks up all the others nearby.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. Sometimes they get lucky, and that's all there is. What did he even get that from?
Shining gifts from the sky.
I mean, the bright side here is, regardless, I mean, there's nothing we could have done. My opponent just got lucky. It's nothing more than that.
Piltover Enforcer on
So, we're going to do the best we can here. But things are not looking great. Yeah, I mean, we'll trade. You know what? Maybe that was stupid of me. Maybe we're supposed to be throwing this Vi away, and we were supposed to keep our Great Beyond alive. That might have been the correct play. Oops. Well, we're buying time so far. That is an 8-mana Thermo. Well, let's draw a card. Create a turret. Okay.
Added to the bug list.
I suppose we probably should kill this first, right?
this.
It is a Great Beyond down. Well, we're still gonna go for Heimerdinger.
It's smaller than a diagram.
Okay. This is gonna be a long, grindy game.
When it runs by, scares stars from the sky.
Decisions, decisions. Well, yeah, zero skill opponent. He's just incredibly lucky. Nothing more to it than that. Yeah. Is what it is. Great Destroyer's not really going to work, correct? Or the Scourge, I mean. Yeah, I mean, it is still probably our best pick there, but yeah, it's not going to do much.
The twilight approaches.
Oh, let's kill Zoe.
Skipping? Ah, look at this reality! Look how sparkly!
I mean, this is a pretty bad matchup for us, but our opponent has drawn incredibly. Yeah, okay, so that's just game. Yeah, nothing we could do there. I mean, they have the perfect draw. Like, that's actually, like, the perfect draw. Nothing went wrong for our opponent that game, so they had the double plaza, they had all that, they had the cheap Aurelian Soul, so yeah, we just can't win that game. That's is what it is. Card games are what card games are, so yep, did our best with a pretty slow hand. Needed to be a little faster than that. But yeah, that's a loss you don't feel too bad about because I mean, there's nothing you could do in that situation. On to the next. Alright, Anivia Control. Interesting. So, we're probably looking to be aggressive here. I'll keep the Staarshaping, but I'm going to pitch everything else here. Okay, Hush is great. Hush is phenomenal. That's a good way to get rid of an Anivia. Also, Vi can potentially be good, but it probably won't happen because they're almost certainly going to have something like Vengeance or Ruination, so that's what we're most concerned of. If the game doesn't time me out while I'm waiting. Alright. Nothing yet. Play them out and go. Okay. If he doesn't have anything, we will definitely take the free damage. Okay, 6 mana. Ooh, we like the Aftershock. Okay, so he's trying to fast bird. Unfortunate because we didn't have a 3-drop. If we had the aggro hand we were hoping for and mulling for, we would be in better shape. But since we don't, not great. And he undid all of our damage as well. We definitely have to be more aggressive, so... What's he got? A Nivea. What's the best thing I could do here? Probably play Vi, right?
Vi stands for violence.
See if he swings.
For my homeland.
Oh, perfect. Alright, well.
Bring it.
We do love to see that. Alright, so you can only kill one of our things next turn, so... Miscall? Okay. Well, that's not the worst thing. Okay, so he can just play one Vengeance next turn. He can't board wipe, so he can go wide. Alright. See what he goes for. Rekindler. Okay, I had a feeling that might be the case. So the question is... Can we... level up Vi? That gets her to 8. That gets her to 9. The answer, I think, is yes. We do have to waste this to do it.
Move it.
A gift from the stars.
Okay, even though I know this means he's going to block a certain way.
Here's the fun part. Freeze.
Alright.
I protect this place.
So, no damage gets through yet, but not that bad since we get the level up
Coming to
Vi.
save the day. Or wreck it.
The problem is he's 3 turns away.
I bring the storm.
So I can block here, I
There's the
suppose.
1-2 punch.
I don't really have any real disadvantage for doing that. Okay. That's, not gonna be enough. How do I want to do this? Because there's a number of ways I can go about it. I think Staarshaping's probably the best, though. Oh, Immortal Fire is very good. I don't have another Celestial, though, so I can't count on Supernova. Unfortunate.
Rend the sky.
But I do get to play Immortal Fire next turn. So that is pretty good.
I will be reborn.
Alright. Well. Here we go. If he board wipes, he kills his own Anivias, at least.
Eat this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we go for, right? Although I suppose we can do this. See if he's willing to block. Okay. So he's going to go for that route. So... it doesn't really matter which one I boost, so it's better to boost her. Push a little bit of damage through. Problem being that now he's got double leveled up Anivia going into next turn. They're not going to grind through a Vi very quickly, so he's got to have hard removal too. And we do have a second Staarshaping now, so that is also very good. Playing Heimerdinger would just get him killed. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to decide if I want to do anything about that. So I can do this plus Aftershock. So is it worth Aftershocking? I can Aftershock to kill Ignivia. I don't think that's worth it. So what is it? Great Beyond's normally... I can't actually see what cards that is, right? Alright, so I just can't block that. That's fine. Alright, so I have to heal one of these. And it's probably worth healing that one more. Okay, take a Great Beyond. So that would be 9 plus 6. 9 plus 6. So we're still under.
This is our time.
Okay, another Staarshaping's good. Killing Great Beyond will not be easy for him, because he'll have to double up removal, and if he does that, that means he can't deal with Vi. The question is, can Vi heal enough? Or can Staarshaping heal enough to buy us one more turn? Because obviously we are going to need one more turn.
Fun part. Freeze.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lethal attack. Oh, yeah, of course. Should have seen that one coming. Okay, well, that still has him to halfway to dead. Now we have to survive this attack, though. That's the more difficult part. Can we survive an attack?
Then kindle anew.
Okay. That's going to deal a lot of damage. And I can't kill any of that stuff prior. Okay.
I bring the storm.
So, we block here, we block here, we block here. We go to -6. That's unfortunate. Yeah, we don't have an answer then, right? Oh, we weren't gonna find anything relevant anyways. Yeah. Well, they had enough in treats. Yep. Well, 3-2. Unfortunate, but, yep. Our opponents got incredibly lucky. Anivia Control is actually not even a bad matchup. They just had the nuts running, so they had the early Anivia. We didn't find our aggro package, like we didn't find our 3-drops and all that. So while they didn't have anything other than Frostbite, they didn't have the hard removal, it didn't really matter in the end. But yeah, no, I tried Anivia Control because I was considering it, and maybe I'll talk about this more in some of the other sections. That deck's terrible right now. It's okay in this matchup. I think we're still favored, but it's okay in this matchup. But I was trying to find a control deck for this week because control's in a bad spot. I tried Anivia Control because it's my favorite control deck. It is hot garbage. Do not play that deck. Do not look at this game and be like, oh, I'm going to play Anivia Control. Please save yourself. I played that deck, and it just gets absolutely roundhouse slammed by especially the Zoe decks, but because they have so much Hush and all that to get rid of it and obliterate effects, and the deck is just so slow, you get absolutely steamrolled by everything. But is what it is. Not terribly surprised we went 3-2 in our matchups because, again, I've said this in every meta check, control is in a terrible spot right now. I truly believe that this is one of the best control decks you can play right now. Because its matchups are pretty good against the metagame. The problem is we didn't see the metagame. Alright, so how do we do in our matchups? That's probably the most disappointed I've ever been in a 3-2. I'm going to be real honest. Still a winning record, which is pretty good because, honestly, I've been talking a lot about it. Control's in a terrible spot right now. It's just really, really bad. It's not where you want to be, despite how much mid-range is in the meta right now. And that's weird, too, because the control deck I settled on is not even really great for the mid-range. It has a decent way winning because of Staarshaping, and even Priestess can find you some flying units that can be really, really solid. But control's in a terrible spot, so going 3-2, very good. Why am I so disappointed? Because those 2 losses were... Honestly, they were garbage. I don't want to be so negative on it, but my opponents really just got insanely lucky. Especially the Zoe Soul deck. Like, that's insane that they hit. Because I think one of those things that they got, one of the big things they had to hit off Traveler. Like, they cast, I believe, 1 Staarshaping, 1 Aurelion Soul. So the fact that they had the 10 mana spell in hand for burst speed, that they had it that turn that they needed it to not get basically set on the 2-turn clock by Great Beyond. The fact that they had that, the 10 costs, and that found them Great Beyond is insane. Like, that's so completely unlikely and just honestly wrong in every way. And so just definitely one of the worst feeling 3-2s because we should not have lost that match under any circumstance. And we even had a terrible hand. Like, everything went poorly on our side, and everything went perfectly on theirs. They had the double Plaza. They had, I believe, turn 1 Zoe, if I remember correctly. Oh, no, they had turn 1 Solari Soldier. But they managed to hit Great Beyond off that. They had Immortal Fire that was really, really strong. They had Sun Forgers to keep their health high, because if they didn't, we would have been able to kill them with burn spells, potentially, too. So... yeah, that just went insane for them. They just got extraordinarily lucky, and that's the only reason we lost that one. Anivia Control, similar feeling. We couldn't find our aggressive creatures or units, and they had super Aniviatrons, since they had at least 1 raw Anivia, then they had the double Rekindler, and they had the double Entreat as well. So that was just... highly unfortunate, and if they didn't win the game that turn, they probably lost, although our Staarshaping was incredibly unlucky at the end there. But they had literally just enough points to win that, so very unlucky for us, extraordinarily lucky for our opponent. Probably should have tried to kill one of those eggs. I can't remember if I really had the window to do it or not, but I definitely should have tried, because that's what ended up costing us. So that might have been a little bit of a misplay, but also just my opponent getting really lucky. We had the slow hand. They had the fast Anivia hand with Catalyst, plus, as I mentioned, Anivia double Rekindlers. So that's one of the fastest wins you'll see out of Anivia Control, so that wasn't kind of working at its best, and we're also not a deck that's going to punish that. If we were an aggro deck, we probably would have mopped the floor with them, and honestly, having played Anivia Control, I've played it a lot in a lot of different metas, and I tried it in a bunch of normals ahead of this, because I was thinking that might be in a good spot. It's definitely not. It's in a terrible spot. Absolutely got stomped by the rest of the meta, but Veimer Control is a matchup where we're going to give them the time to get to that late game, most likely, because we don't have a lot of super aggressive threats, but if they ran into something like Bilgewater Burn, that deck is extraordinarily likely to just run them over, no matter how they've tweaked for it. And since he was running Catalyst, almost certainly his deck is even worse off for the aggro matchup, but Anivia Control's not in a great spot, and that's why I settled on Veimer Control. I messed with a couple of things. I tried Spooky Ezreal using Hexcore, because I've always loved that deck, but it's still just, it's not quite good enough. I really wanted that deck to work and to play that this week, but unfortunately the deck is pretty bad. It's definitely, when you get there it'll feel awesome, but you're going to be pretty unfavored to get there. So Veimer Control is the one that did the best. I think I won every one of my prep games, though those were in normals. And it was against a few meta decks. But the thing is, it's got Hush for Zoe Lee Sin, and we didn't end up seeing any Lee Sin, which is really unfortunate because that's what we're teched for. Essentially, we should be good into that matchup. So, unfortunately, we couldn't find those matchups, but we were still pretty good. I mean, the Plaza Scout matchup went far better than I expected. I had a feeling that matchup was going to be better than it used to be, because one of the worst decks you could run into originally with Veimer Control was Banner Scouts back then, because of the fact that we don't have board wipes, that things like that became problematic for Veimer Control, and even Harrow Race could be, depending on what happened. Like, if they got Harrowing, and they got the big Harrowing turn, there's nothing we could do. So, those kind of decks were always the problem before, but the addition of Plaza, ironically, has slowed down Plaza Scouts, and since we do have an answer for that with Aftershock, it can be a much better matchup than before. So that was pretty good. We may have gotten a little bit lucky, but again, since that deck is a lot slower now, that might be more expected going forward. So again, I think if you really love Control and Control's what you want to do, Veimer Control is probably one of your best bets. But as you can see, you're still going to have a slug of it, because you probably can pull a positive win rate. It's just not going to be an incredibly high win rate. I think it probably would end up higher than what we saw here. I think, again, that the 3-2 was pretty tragic. I think we could have done a lot better, and I think there was a real possibility to go 5-0 because we were favored into the two matches we lost, but our opponents got very lucky and we got a little unlucky, and that'll happen. So unfortunately, didn't get anything better than a 3-2, but I do think on the whole you might be able to expect that win rate to climb a little bit higher, just not a ton. I really wouldn't expect it, because again, I cannot stress this enough. It's not a great meta for Control. Mid-range is too strong, and the combo decks out there are super resilient to any form of removal because of all of the spell shield, the counter spells, the burst speed answers. It's just going to be very hard to try and win with a Control shell, especially a Shadow Isles one. That's in really bad shape. Like, you're much better off even with the Go Hard plan, because of the fact that a 5-mana board wipe is still better than a 9-mana board wipe, even in the world of counter spells. And ironically, against the Lee Sin matchup, you could almost say, it's not, but you could almost say that Pack Your Bags has been buffed since you can't Nopify it anymore. But I don't really see much hope for going the Shadow Isles Control route, because unless people start playing decks like this where you can potentially be ground out by them, Vengeance just isn't going to cut it anymore. So yeah, this is I think the best position to be if that's what you're looking for. So that's what we settled on for this week's episode. I didn't want to give another game or another week of aggro. I didn't want to repeat Bilgewater Burn, for example. And sadly, I think we're probably heading into a lot of repeats. Not decks I've played this season, so it'll at least be a first episode for Cosmic Creation, but right now the meta is favoring a lot of decks we've played before. I almost played Draven Ezreal for this week because I do love that deck, but since that was the last deck we played last season, I kind of wanted to give it a little bit longer, whereas at least Bilgewater Burn had been 11 to 12 weeks. Veimer Control was maybe, let's see, 5, so like 7 weeks maybe since the last time we played Veimer Control. So I figured that warranted enough of a difference, and Veimer Control is a really neat deck. Possibly you could tweak it a little bit more for this metagame, but I'm fairly happy with where the list is at right now. Maybe dropping some guiding touches for some more early aggro pieces might be worth it, like Solari Soldier, but yeah, on the whole, I think this is probably the best place you can get the Veimer list going, and I do think it's worth running a number of Aftershocks because of how many plazas we're seeing. And Divergent Path was never worth running, but Aftershock's obviously really good for a lot of things because you can always kill a Nocturne with it. So, yeah, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos just like it.